We're going to be talking about variables, what they are, and using them, and then replacement values. So replacing an expression with something else in order to solve or simplify that expression. So in order to do this today, we're going to have to remember those order of operations, or the PEMDAs that we've been talking about in class. So let's start off by defining what a variable is. A variable is a symbol to represent an unknown quantity. So something to stand for something else. So for example, we see these all the time. A could be a symbol or a variable to stand for any number, so 5. Okay, so that's a variable. An algebraic expression is different from an algebraic equation because it doesn't have an equal sign. Combination of variables and numbers with operations. So an example of this would be 2a plus 7, or 4 minus 8 plus 10. Okay, so those are expressions. They have no equal sign, but they're just an expression. And then what we're going to be talking about today is this replacement value. So this just means replacing a variable given number. Okay, and you're going to do this to simplify or solve an expression. Okay, so let's move into some examples here. And we're going to use our key up here at the top. We see A is equal to -3, B is equal to 5, C 1/2, and D 4. Those variables are going to stand for those numbers, and I'm going to replace them in the expressions below. So let's start with this first one. Now the key for being successful when using replacement values is using parentheses for anything that you replace in, and I'll show you what I mean. If you don't do this, you're going to make mistakes somewhere. So I want you to write this exactly like I'm writing this, and that will make sure that you make less mistakes when you are doing this early on. Alright, so I see a squared. I'm going to replace that a with a -3, and I'm going to put the -3 in parentheses because I'm replacing the a. Okay, so there's my a, and they want me to square it. Okay, and then times d. That's why the parentheses are going to help here, because these are right next to each other, and it's telling me they want me to multiply them. So I already have the parentheses there, so it's really nice. So I'm going to draw another pair of parentheses because I'm going to replace that d with, let's look, a 4. Okay, so -3 squared times 4 plus, I'm going to replace a b, so I'm going to do my parentheses. B is 5, parentheses, c is a 1/2. Okay, so I know you've got a lot of parentheses going on, but trust me, that's really going to help you to make sure that you are actually multiplying when you replace those values. So let's start at the beginning, and this is where we're going to follow order of operations. So in PEMDAs, it tells us to do any expression that's in parentheses. Now I know all of these are in parentheses right now, but there's nothing I can do to simplify within any of the parentheses. So I'm going to move to the e, which is exponents. So I'm going to take -3 and I'm going to square it. -3 squared is +9. I'm going to bring everything else down that was in parentheses. Oops. I'm going to look for what else I can do to simplify this. So I see another multiplication that I can do here. So 9 times 4 is 36. I'm going to bring everything else down, keep them in parentheses as you go. And I'm not going to do addition. That's not next to my order of operations. Next would be multiplication. Now this is kind of yucky because it's going to give you a decimal. You can write it as a fraction or a decimal. I'm going to write it as a decimal, 2.5. And then I'm going to plus 36, that's my final step. I'm going to get 38.5. Okay, notice how I did everything step by step just like you do for order of operations. Alrighty, I'm going to have you guys try example 2 at the very end. I'm going to skip over to example 3. Alright, for example number 3, I'm going to do the same thing I did over here and replace all the variables using parentheses. So I'm going to start with this d, and my d is equal to 4. So I have 4 divided by c is a half plus, so we have -3 times 4, replacing that a and d, over 6. So I've replaced all the variables with numbers, and now I'm going to follow order of operations, so PEMDAS. So I'm going to start with anything I can simplify within parentheses. So here I see I can simplify this -3 times 4. So I'm going to rewrite everything up until that point. So I have 4 divided by a half plus, now if I simplify what's up here in parentheses, -3 times 4 gives me -12 over 6. Okay, so now I'm going to look at what I have now and see what I would simplify next. So these are actually both division, so I'm just going to start at the left and simplify here. 4 divided by a half would give me 8, and then I'm going to bring down this -12 over 6. I have addition and division, so next would come this division. So I have -2 plus 8, and my final answer would be 6. Okay, so these replacements are really not that different from order of operations that you've been doing. The only difference is this first step where you have to replace. And believe it or not, this is where a lot of people will make their mistakes if you don't use those parentheses. Okay, so practice, practice, try example number 2 on your own, and check your answer.